When the Saudi royal family travels, it's never just a trip. It's a carefully hidden operation involving flying palaces, armored convoys, and moving fortresses at sea. Nothing is random and nothing is public by accident. Stay until the end, because we'll reveal the one travel rule the House of Saud follows that explains why their real movements are almost never where the world thinks they are. The invisible scale of the House of Saud. At the level of the Saudi royal family, travel is never personal, it is institutional. The House of Saud is not a household in the conventional sense, but a ruling network of approximately 15,000 members, spread across generations, regions, and power tiers. Yet only around 2,000 senior royals are granted access to the family's most protected travel system. That distinction matters because movement itself is power. There is no such thing as a single royal trip. What exists instead is a parallel travel ecosystem, operating continuously, whether the family is in Riyadh, Europe, or on open water. Every movement is layered. While one aircraft is visible to media trackers, others are already in the air or positioned on standby. While one itinerary is publicly acknowledged, alternative routes are quietly activated. This system is not designed for comfort alone. It is designed to ensure that no single failure can ever compromise continuity. When a senior Saudi royal travels, the operation resembles a mobile government more than a journey. Communications, security, medical readiness, logistics, and decision-making authority all move together. The family does not rely on host nations for critical support. Personnel are Saudi, equipment is Saudi, protocol is Saudi. This creates a self-contained sovereign bubble that can operate independently for extended periods without external dependence. Assets within this system are not symbolic, they are functional. A single long-range aircraft configured for royal use can cost hundreds of millions of dollars, not because of decoration, but because of redundancy, secure communications, and onboard command capability. Ground movements involve fleets of identical armored vehicles, each worth several $100,000, designed to obscure which car actually carries a principal. On sea routes, super yachts valued at $500 to $600 million function as floating headquarters, complete with helipads, security zones, and autonomous support infrastructure. The core rule governing this entire system is simple and absolute. The real schedule is never the public schedule. Announced arrivals, photographed departures, and ceremonial appearances are only one layer of a deeper operational plan. True movements occur off-camera, often hours earlier or later than reported. Routes are rarely repeated. Patterns are deliberately avoided. This approach was shaped by history, internal power struggles, regional instability, and the sheer concentration of wealth inside the family created an environment where predictability equals vulnerability. Over decades, travel evolved from logistics into strategy. The result is a system where mobility itself becomes a defensive asset. Understanding this invisible scale changes how the House of Saud is viewed. Their power is not only measured in oil reserves or national funds, but in the ability to move freely while remaining fundamentally unknowable. Did you expect royal travel to operate like a parallel government rather than a lifestyle privilege? Share your thoughts in the comments. The Royal Air Fleet, flying palaces in the sky. If land defines territory, then airspace defines control. For the House of Saud, air travel is not transportation, it is sovereignty in motion. The Saudi Royal Air Fleet functions as a mobile extension of the state, designed to operate beyond commercial oversight, foreign dependence, or predictable patterns. What the public sees as a private jet is, in reality, a layered airborne system built for endurance, command, and absolute discretion. At the center of this fleet are multiple wide-body aircraft, most notably customized Boeing 747-400 and 400 and Boeing 777 platforms. One Boeing 747-400, frequently associated with senior royal travel, is estimated to be worth around $500 million after modification. This aircraft is not configured like a luxury jet. It is structured like a flying palace with state functionality. Inside are private royal suites, conference rooms capable of hosting cabinet-level meetings, a fully equipped medical bay, secure communications rooms, and a dedicated prayer area aligned for in-flight worship. Every space is designed for long-discharge missions, without reliance on ground facilities. Supporting these wide-body aircraft are long-range executive jets such as the Gulfstream G650, each valued at approximately $70 million before customization. These aircraft serve a different role. They are faster, less conspicuous, and capable of landing at smaller, less monitored airports. In practice, they often move ahead of or behind the primary aircraft, acting as decoys, command relays, or emergency extraction platforms. What separates the Saudi royal fleet from other elite aviation operations is doctrine. No aircraft ever travels alone. Flights are planned in formations. One jet may depart publicly while another mirrors its route at a different altitude. A third aircraft may already be positioned at an alternate destination, engines warm, crew ready. This redundancy is deliberate. The objective is not luxury, it is continuity. Even a mechanical failure or unexpected closure never interrupts movement. Every individual on board serves a defined function. Pilots, engineers, security teams, medical staff, and even culinary personnel are Saudi nationals vetted through internal royal channels. This eliminates language barriers, jurisdictional issues, and external exposure. Meals are prepared in-flight by royal chefs. Medical staff are trained to handle emergencies without diversion. Security teams coordinate with ground units before wheels ever touch the runway. At one point, the fleet briefly included a modified Airbus A300, effectively a flying estate valued well beyond $500 million in conversion costs alone. Though rarely used due to logistical complexity, its existence illustrates the scale at which the family operates. These aircraft are not symbols, they are strategic tools. In this system, altitude equals insulation. Borders dissolve at cruising speed, time compresses, authority travels uninterrupted. The Royal Air Fleet does not merely move people. It moves power, quietly and continuously across continents. And as the aircraft descend, another layer of the system is already waiting on the ground. Ground movement. Armored convoys and decoy routes. The moment the aircraft doors close behind them, the next phase begins. On the ground, the House of Saud never relies on host country transportation. Every movement is pre-engineered, self-contained, and insulated from local systems. What appears to outsiders as a simple motorcade is, in reality, a mobile security doctrine refined over decades. At the center of these convoys are armored vehicles built not for prestige, but survival. The most recognizable are Rolls-Royce Phantom Armored series, each valued at around $1 million after ballistic reinforcement. These vehicles are equipped with bulletproof glass, reinforced steel frames, run-flat tires, and sealed cabins capable of resisting chemical threats. Inside, the cabin remains silent, climate-controlled, and indistinguishable from a luxury limousine. The goal is psychological neutrality. Nothing about the ride signals urgency. Supporting these are Mercedes-Maybach S-Class Guard models, typically priced between $600,000 and $700,000 per unit. These serve dual purposes. Some carry senior family members or advisors. Others exist solely as decoys. Every convoy includes multiple identical vehicles, painted the same, plated similarly, and spaced with calculated ambiguity. No observer can immediately identify which car matters. Ahead and behind the luxury layer sits a more aggressive shield. Military-grade SUVs, often based on Toyota Land Cruiser 300 armored variants, costing over $400,000 each after modification, form the outer perimeter. These vehicles are driven by Saudi-trained security units, not local forces. Their role is interception. They watch intersections, crowds, rooftops, and traffic anomalies in real time. Routes are never fixed. Even when traveling between the same locations repeatedly, the path changes by the minute. Operations teams typically prepare 2 to 3 active routes with an additional emergency extraction corridor. GPS navigation is avoided or overridden. Directions are issued verbally through encrypted headsets. If a single variable changes traffic density, weather, or crowd movement, the convoy pivots instantly. In some cases, empty vehicles are deployed intentionally. A lead convoy of identical armored cars may depart first, drawing attention and security focus. Minutes later, the actual convoy follows a different path, with altered spacing and license plates swapped just before movement. These plates are diplomatic, temporary, and rotated constantly, making tracking nearly impossible. What distinguishes Saudi ground movement from celebrity motorcades is duration and discipline. Convoys can operate for hours without stopping, refueling, or external contact. Medical support travels within the formation. Secure communication links remain active with airborne assets and nearby royal residences. At no point is the convoy dependent on host country infrastructure beyond road access. Even arrival points are rarely final destinations. A palace, hotel, or private estate may simply be a transition node. After a brief stop, vehicles reshuffle positions, passengers switch cars, and the convoy dissolves into another formation. Observers often assume the movement has ended, when it has only shifted shape. On the ground, visibility equals vulnerability, so the system minimizes both. The vehicles look luxurious, familiar, even ceremonial, but beneath the polished chrome and tinted glass is a rolling architecture of redundancy, deception, and control. And once the engines shut down, the perimeter does not disappear, it tightens. Sea travel, super yachts as mobile fortresses. When the House of Saud moves onto the water, the rules change completely. At sea, there are no roads to control, no airspace corridors to negotiate, and no civilian crowds to manage. What replaces them is something far more absolute: sovereignty by distance. This is where the Saudi royal family operates, with near total autonomy, using the ocean as both shield and stage. At the center of this strategy is the super yacht Serene, valued $600 million. More than a vessel, Serene functions as a floating headquarters. Stretching over 439 feet, it is large enough to host multiple operational zones without overlap. Public-facing luxury decks sit far from secure interior compartments. Guests may experience infinity pools and observation lounges, while security teams operate in sealed sections invisible to anyone on board. The yacht is equipped with 2 helicopter landing pads, allowing direct transfers from land or air without reliance on ports. This means arrivals and departures never require docking at public marinas. Helicopters land, engines shut down, and passengers vanish below deck within minutes. From there, the yacht can move immediately, changing coordinates before maritime tracking systems update. Below the waterline, Serene includes a submarine garage capable of deploying a mini-submersible. While exact specifications remain undisclosed, such systems typically cost tens of millions of dollars and allow underwater reconnaissance or discrete transfers between vessels. This capability eliminates dependence on visible tender boats, further reducing exposure. Security on board mirrors a military installation rather than a leisure craft. Dedicated command rooms monitor radar, satellite feeds, and maritime traffic. Crew and protection units are Saudi-trained, not contracted locally. This distinction matters. On international waters, the royal family answers to no port authority, no customs inspection, and no border patrol. The ship becomes Saudi territory the moment it clears harbor limits. Perhaps the most striking symbol of this autonomy was the reported storage of Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi, purchased for $450.3 million aboard Serene. The decision was not about display, it was about control. A painting of that value requires climate stability, biometric access, and layered security. A super yacht with sovereign-level protection offers all three, without the transparency demanded by museums or banks. Unlike private jets or motorcades, sea travel allows duration without detection. The yacht can remain offshore for weeks, repositioning across the Mediterranean, Red Sea, or Indian Ocean. During this time, meetings occur, decisions are made, and operations continue uninterrupted. Fuel, supplies, and personnel can be rotated discreetly via support vessels, themselves costing tens of millions of dollars. The psychology of sea travel is deliberate. There are no crowds, no cameras, no observers beyond the horizon. Movement feels slow, controlled, inevitable. This environment reinforces dominance. Time bends to the schedule on board, not the outside world. For the Saudi royal family, yachts like Serene are not indulgences, they are strategic assets, floating fortresses that convert geography into power, and when the coastline disappears, so do the constraints. Gifts, cover stories, and diplomatic distractions. Not every royal journey announces itself with engines or convoys. Some arrive disguised as celebration, others vanish behind applause. For the Saudi royal family, secrecy is often achieved not by hiding movement, but by redirecting attention. Public travel is frequently wrapped in spectacle: a high-profile sports tournament, a global economic forum, a luxury tourism visit promoted weeks in advance. These events serve as deliberate cover stories, drawing cameras toward predictable locations while private schedules unfold elsewhere. When journalists believe they are tracking a ceremonial appearance, the real itinerary has already shifted. One of the most effective tools in this strategy is generosity scaled to overwhelm headlines. After Saudi Arabia's shock victory over Argentina at the World Cup, players were reportedly gifted Rolls-Royce Phantoms valued at over $1 million each. The gesture dominated global media cycles for days. Commentary focused on luxury, gratitude and symbolism. What received little scrutiny was where senior royals were during that same window, or whom they were meeting behind closed doors. Lavish private events function similarly. Exclusive island gatherings or resort takeovers costing $15 million per night create irresistible visuals for entertainment media. Photographers capture fireworks, models, yachts, and curated glamour. Meanwhile, parallel meetings occur beyond the perimeter, often involving energy negotiations, sovereign investments, or political mediation. The spectacle becomes a decoy. Gifting also plays a diplomatic role. Heads of state, ministers, and influential figures have received items such as diamond-encrusted swords, rare timepieces, or custom vehicles valued in the hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. These objects are not transactional bribes, they are relationship anchors. Once accepted, they create obligation, discretion, and silence. Public acknowledgement is polite, private access follows. International media coverage rarely penetrates beyond the surface narrative. Accredited reporters attend official events, receive pre-approved schedules, and rely on government briefings. Movements outside that framework remain invisible. Even satellite tracking and aviation logs offer limited insight when activities are legally shielded by diplomatic status or sovereign privilege. What makes this system effective is its psychological precision. Attention is a finite resource. When audiences fixate on luxury gifts or headline-friendly celebrations, curiosity dissipates, questions fade, the extraordinary becomes normalized. In this way, secrecy is not maintained by absence, but by excess. Too much spectacle to question, too much wealth to decode, too many distractions layered intentionally. For the Saudi royal family, misdirection is an art form, and the most effective hiding place is often right in plain sight. Why Saudi royal travel is designed this way? Saudi royal travel is not built around convenience, it is built around history, memory, and survival. Every movement carries the weight of past betrayals, regional instability, and internal power struggles that most outsiders never see. For the House of Saud, travel has always been a question of control. Saudi Arabia was unified through force, alliances, and religious authority. That legacy never faded. Coups across the Middle East, assassinations of monarchs, and internal palace rivalries taught one lesson early. Visibility invites vulnerability. Mobility without dominance invites risk. This is why Saudi royal movement functions less like a journey and more like a strategic operation. Unlike Western leaders who rely on transparency and predictable routes, Saudi royals operate under a different logic. In the United States or Europe, public schedules are part of political legitimacy. In Saudi Arabia, opacity is legitimacy. Power is preserved by limiting information, not broadcasting it. Security assets are treated as extensions of sovereignty. Aircraft, vehicles, residences, and even temporary accommodations are not rentals, they are controlled environments. A modified Boeing 747, valued at over $500 million, is not luxury for comfort, but a mobile command center immune to foreign jurisdiction. A rotating fleet of Gulfstream G650S, priced at $70 million each, ensures redundancy, unpredictability, and instant repositioning. Even hospitality follows this logic. Entire hotel floors, private islands, or resort wings are quietly secured weeks in advance, often costing millions per stay, not for indulgence, but to eliminate variables. Staff rotations are limited, access is layered, routes change until the final hours. This approach also reflects internal family dynamics. With nearly 15,000 royal family members and real power concentrated among a few thousand, movement becomes political signaling. Who travels? Who hosts? who arrives first, who remains absent. Each detail communicates hierarchy without words. Unlike Western elites, Saudi royals rarely rely on local infrastructure alone. They bring their own security, their own communications, and often their own medical teams. This autonomy ensures that no foreign government ever holds leverage through logistics, law, or dependency. At its core, Saudi royal travel is about absolute control of environment, timing, and narrative. Nothing is left to improvisation. Nothing is accidental. Every route protects not just lives, but authority. This is why their movements feel invisible, excessive, and precise all at once. Because for the House of Saud, travel is not movement. It is power in motion. And now the question is yours. Which part of Saudi royal travel surprised you the most? The aircraft, the secrecy, or the strategy behind it all? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What this journey reveals is that power moves differently at the highest level. First, secrecy is more valuable than luxury. The House of Saud proves that true security comes from controlling information, not showing strength. Second, redundancy is power. From multiple aircraft to decoy routes and parallel convoys, nothing relies on a single plan or a single path. Third, sovereignty travels with them. Whether in the air, on land, or at sea, the Saudi royal family does not adapt to host nations. They recreate their own controlled environment wherever they go. These travel systems are not about comfort alone, they are about survival, continuity, and absolute control over movement. If this deep dive opened your eyes to how real power operates behind the scenes, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. And don't miss part 2, where we break down how Saudi royal travel compares to US presidents and China's top leaders.